Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Fantasy Fiends podcast. So sorry we kept you waiting for so long. I'm Stevie Collier, your host, and I'm here with my co-host, Andy Peliquin, and today we are honored to have AJ Martinez, author of the Rift of Chaos series. Guys, go check out his books because the freaking covers are so awesome. I want a print copy of this so I can have it on my shelf. That's how good it looks.
Oh, man, thanks. Thank you.
You're welcome. And today's episode is brought to you by A Sellsword's Compassion by Jacob Peppers. War sweeps the land as the sons and daughters of the late King Marcus battle over who will claim their father's throne, and able-bodied men and women flock to one cause or the other in the hopes of a better tomorrow. At least, most of them. If life has taught the jaded sellsword Aaron Envelar anything, it's that hope is for fools and causes are a sure remedy for breathing. But when his latest job leads him to the corpse of a prince and a conspiracy that threatens to destroy the entire realm, Aaron is forced to choose sides in a war he doesn't want, between forces he doesn't understand. Start your journey into this epic fantasy world of the Seven Virtues by Jacob Peppers. Read for free right now on Amazon Kindle Unlimited and find out more about the author at jacobpeppersauthor.com. That's jacobpeppersauthor.com. Thrust into a world of mythical assassins, a madman with superhuman strength and a nagging ball of light with a superiority complex who claims to be the embodiment of compassion, Aaron takes on his hardest job yet, staying alive. Man, now I have another book to put on my to-read list. It's seriously, I have too much to read with no time.
I know, right? That nagging ball of light just sounds like such an awesome character.
I don't know why, but I was gonna be like nagging balls. I was about to read it that way.
Three.
I love assassins. So that sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
3 minutes into the podcast, and Stevie's already taken it there.
I have to get my balls out. It's been 2 weeks without ball talk. So, AJ, welcome, man, to the podcast.
Welcome.
Thank you for having me, guys. Thank you for having me. This is like first interview really that's like on camera. So this is great. This is really exciting.
First interview, man. You're like so prepared. You have your microphone and you sound the video quality is great. The sound is great. It's gonna be a good interview. I feel it. I feel it in my heart.
Awesome.
So today we have big news though. From me, Andy has no news. He has no news at all. Nothing cool has happened to Andy at all. Andy, tell us your news, man.
Well, this is probably the most exciting thing that's ever happened to me in my author career ever. But yeah. It's been a week since Darkblade Assassin was released, the first book in the Hero of Darkness series, and it's been sitting at bestseller in its category for 5 days now. It hit bestseller in another category yesterday, and today it was as low as the 850 in the entire Amazon store, which is a rank that I didn't even think I could achieve. And I was just like totally shocked when I woke up this morning and it was 979, and then I checked it again at like 2 o'clock and it's 850. I was like, what is this? So
I saw that. I saw you posting it on Facebook, and I went and checked it out, and I was like, wow, that's congratulations, man. That's amazing.
It's way better than I was hoping. I was like, all right, if I could at least, hit the bestseller in my category, I'll be happy. And then it just kept dropping and dropping and dropping. And there was one of the guys in the category, we were fighting over number one. I think I was ranked 1058 and he was 1057.
Another big author too.
Yeah, I passed him up for like 2 hours and then he reclaimed it. And so then finally a couple of days ago, I got that number one, and I was so stoked.
I was in Seattle at the time, and I saw that, and I went and showed my mom and dad and my brother. It was just so exciting to see someone so close to me hit this rank. And to give you guys perspective, I was able to go full-time as an author with the 4 territories. The Darkblade Assassin is doing better than my launch of the 4 territories. So Andy and I are gonna have a lot of fun just breaking down things on how to launch better. And I'm excited from a business standpoint. Ooh, it's so good. Ooh, yeah. Business.
Yeah, and then Darkblade Outcast, the second book in the series, just released today. And the pre-order for the third book in the series, Darkblade Protector, also just went up today. So it's like getting the series out quickly hopefully gets people engaged in reading so that they are as addicted by the story as I am.
It is definitely a great story. I have to leave my review too. I was just wanted to ask your permission first because I know friends aren't allowed to leave reviews. It's like, I read the book. I want to leave a review. He's an acquaintance.
You got to make sure to get the dagger's name right because you called it Soulmonger in your email and your newsletter, and it's Soul Hunger.
Dude.
Yeah, Amazon's out to attacking.
My
Amazon's
heart.
taking reviews down.
Andy, I'm sorry.
It's totally fine. It's not the most ridiculous name that I've seen.
Change it to Soulmonger.
Someone who sells souls.
It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool. AJ. So the reason I started off with this joke is not just because I'm weird, but because at the beginning of each podcast, I like to ask everyone on the show, what cool news do they have, or what's something cool that happened last week. So AJ, I should have told you this before. I have a bad habit of not warning our the people we have on the air. So is there anything cool you want to talk about? Anything, any new releases, new cover art?
Anything cool? Let's see.
Or in your life too. Anything.
Okay, well, the two things. Recently, I went to a heavy metal concert. Any metal fans here?
Dude, right here.
Woo!
Here.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm here in Connecticut, New Haven, and I was at an All That Remains concert.
All That
I'm
Remains.
not sure if you ever heard of them.
I have them on my Spotify.
All That Remains?
Yeah.
Love those guys. I've got a few of their songs on my playlist.
Yep. So I saw them for the first time live, and it was the shit. I mean, there was also some new bands there that were kind of promoting themselves, but yeah, it was a blast. First time seeing them, and the place got really packed. It was funny because in the beginning, it was another Remains concert, so I thought it was gonna be packed right from the bat.
Yeah,
so
you would think,
because it was a small venue. It was a small venue in New Haven. It's kind of like this is a small place. The new bands were playing first, so there were few people there in the beginning. So I guess the fans thought, okay, there's all these bands that we don't know, so let's wait. Let's go into the last 2 hours where all the Remains will start playing, right? Mm-hmm. So for the first 2-3 hours, the place was kind of it was, I'm not gonna say empty, but there was very few people there. That when All That Remains showed up, an hour, a half hour before that, everybody just the place just got freaking packed. And it was a small place too. So that was just off the top, man.
I know This Calling by All That Remains gives me chills every time I listen to it. I just love that song. For me, I just got back from Alaska and Seattle, and I did not know such a beautiful countryside existed. Alaska is an amazing place. I suggest everybody go. It wasn't that cold. I was surprised. I was expecting to be attacked by polar bears or something. And that and Seattle. The cool thing about Seattle was the haunted tour I went on, and that was some freaky stuff, man. Oh, I mean, I was terrified throughout the whole thing. Everyone else was cool, but I was just scared. So that's what I did. That was something cool that I did. It was relaxing. I tried to keep my mind off business. So
wait, one more thing before we go on.
Okay.
I don't know if you guys noticed, if you're watching, you've seen my white background for the entire time that we've been doing this podcast. Now I'm in this weird blue room. And as of Wednesday, I'm officially Canadian. I moved to Canada, and I've been doing the whole house hunting, car hunting thing for 5 days. And it's been a ton of fun. Like Stevie was saying, Alaska is such a beautiful country. I don't think I've ever seen this many green trees and just natural beauty since I left Japan. It's such a beautiful place to live. I'm really excited to be here, to be a Canadian again, eh?
I love Canada. I don't know why people talk crap about it. I never understood the joke because I've been
They're
to
just
Canada.
jealous of us.
It's so awesome. Are you like in an Airbnb right now?
No, I'm staying with in-laws. This is what their kids' room.
Oh, okay. It's so light backgroundy for a dark
I
fantasy
know.
author. It's like we're about to, like Blue's Clues stuff over here.
Yeah, exactly.
So today, I want to pull up exactly what we're talking about today. And AJ has pitched us something that we've never had on the podcast, but it's going to be something super cool. Everybody knows I'm a spiritual religious person. And today, we're going to be talking about the philosophy that is that fantasy is a spiritual part of us and science is our future. Andy, could you explain that better than what I just did? I just tore it apart.
Definitely.
Okay, great. Yeah.
Go ahead, AJ.
Okay. Yeah. So basically, fantasy is the spiritual part of us. So basically, like the wizards, um, the like the gods and goddesses. If you watch Lord of the Rings, kind of like the journey, your journey in life. You know, um, and then science fiction, and then sci-fi is basically what could happen in the future. So when we write fantasy, really we're tapping into kind of like the spiritual side of us, like the light and darkness, creating that. Usually the protagonist usually takes part of the light, and then the villain is the darkness, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I guess subconsciously we're kind of like um, subconsciously we are just tapping into that spirit, the spiritual part of us, that subconscious. And then when we write science fiction, it's we're really thinking of the possible future of humanity, subconsciously, like something like the Hunger Games. When we watch people kill each other live. And I think there was in Russia they did an experiment like that. Some rich guy. This was like years ago, like a few years after the movie came out. Some Russian guy did a game like that where he put like these people into the wild, and the winner, whoever survived would get like $3 million. And I don't know what the rules were, but that was like the highlight, the little details of the game. So yeah, to make it short, that's kind of that's kind of the I guess the short version of when I say the philosophy of fantasy and sci-fi.
Wait,
Science fiction also, the post-apocalyptic, like people are, for example, like what kind of like what's happening with AI, artificial intelligence. Like I believe a lot of authors, when we write science fiction, we're also tapping into kind of like that fear. Shit, what if this would happen? You ever watch iRobot?
oh yeah.
Yeah, iRobot. So obviously, and I bring that up. I bring that up because I'm a guy that loves technology, but I'm a guy that loves technology, but I kind of see myself like Will Smith in iRobot, where it's like I don't like machines that think for themselves. I just think they're just too fucking dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you guys feel the same way. How do you feel about that kind of stuff?
Andy, you want to go while I process? While I process.
I don't really have any thoughts on that particular matter.
I don't like the idea of my biggest fear of AI is the snowball effect of their consciousness. So they start learning, they start, they're smart, they're like us at first, and then they just realize humans are destroying the earth and they just become fanatics. And when I say snowball effect, they just become more and more consciously aware, and they realize that humans are destroying the earth and that we're actually a parasite, which I don't believe. And that's my fear about it. Am I super, super afraid of it? No, I'm not. I'm not very. I don't think about it often. And but I had the idea for a book, but I don't write sci-fi. But everybody's done that. But Yeah, that would be my fear, but I think we're pretty far away from it, aren't we? I mean,
Yeah. According to Michio Kaku, that he says it's gonna be like maybe 100 to like 200 years before like we create a robot that's as smart as a monkey.
really, I didn't know that.
Yeah, if you follow Michio Kaku, he's a scientist, a futurist.
He's a cool guy. He's very interesting.
Yeah. If you watch some of his interview, that's what he said about artificial intelligence. So yeah, it's gonna be like a couple of 100 years before we get to creating those robots that can actually conquer the world or whatever.
And for those of you who are wondering how Stevie Collier knew who Michio Kaku was, Kaku, I know. It's because I actually went to school to be an engineer, and that lasted a whole 3 whole weeks. Yeah. So yes, I was in school to be an engineer and realized that I don't work so well with my right side of the brain. That's how I knew. But yeah, for some reason, when you said that fantasy is like our way of bringing out spirituality, is that what you meant?
Yeah, like bringing out the spiritual side of us, that light and darkness, angels and demons, vampires and werewolves. Because I guess metaphorically speaking, a vampire could be somebody that not that they sink your teeth in and suck your blood, but somebody that drains you. Maybe somebody who's like in your life, and every time you're around that person, you feel like you just feel weak around them. Somebody that you just don't like. It just it's kind of like this symbolism. And then a werewolf could be somebody that kind of loses control of their anger. I'm just throwing examples out here, but yeah.
Yeah. Do you think science fiction could do this also? Do you think you could mix the two?
Oh yeah. I mean, it's been done before. I think Chris Fox, he writes science fantasy.
Yeah, his newest series, right, is the what is it, the Spellslinger series? I think that was his way of trying to get both markets of sci-fi and fantasy. From what I hear, it worked pretty well. That's interesting. And a thought that comes to my mind when we're talking about this is that the art of storytelling is us. I speaking of the Story Circle by Dan, what is it? Dan Harmon. He talks very heavily about stories are about heroes who go deep into the unconscious and then they come back. And that's what a hero is. And that heroes are actually in our day-to-day lives. There's not a lot of them, but there are a few. And these are the people that dive into their unconscious and come back rather than shutting the door on the unconscious. And he said the people who he believes are heroes in today's world are architects, doctors, and people who are striving for the future. He says these people are the ones that go deep into the unconscious and come back, and this keeps them healthy. I also believe it's meditators. I want to add that to this. That's my personal opinion. Okay. These are when you first pitched this idea, this was the thought that came into my head. I'm not sure if it relates 100%, but I feel that storytelling is a natural way for people to like you said, put their beliefs into a story, maybe.
Yes. Oh, that's a nice quote. Yeah.
Oh, nice. Okay, I was just making sure I was following this well. Andy, any ideas?
I've said it before, and I'm gonna say it again because I like saying things. It's sort of like the two sides of the same coin. I do like that thing of fantasy being sort of the spiritual, because when you look at the sort of the elements that drive fantasy novels, let's take magic. Magic is religion, just in a different package. You ultimately believe in this established system, the system of magic, of rules and regulations, just like it's like a religion in any universe. So you've got the things that enable people to do magic. They're very internal, very spiritual in many things. That the control over self that you have to exercise to manifest your fire powers, or you have to talk, or like Dungeons and Dragons, the cleric, they have to talk to their god to get their magical powers. So there is really this spiritual component, and it's not packaged that way. It's packaged as magic, or the themes that drive fantasy novels. I mean, take even the non magical fantasy novels that we've all read. Even if there's no magic in it, there's still these really human moments that drive the fantasy novels. I would say more so than sci-fi. And sci-fi is definitely much more about, like you said, the future, the technology, looking at the way things could become. And there is definitely that human touch, you know, where people are exploring the things about themselves that that enable them to succeed or that cause them to fail. But ultimately, it's much more focused on the story or on the technology than on
Yes.
the internal. So you've got this much more external focus in sci-fi, whereas
Yes.
it's much more internal.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
You
So
should.
it's almost like fantasy is kind of like the introverted side of storytelling, you know, and then science fiction is like the extroverted side. You know,
Exactly.
it's kind of like this yin and yang thing.
I feel
I
like
was actually going to title this episode "The Yin and Yang of Speculative Fiction," but I didn't go with it because I didn't want to be too derivative.
I feel like fantasy is more for people who want to escape. You know, they want to join a new world. I mean, I guess you could say the same for sci-fi. I feel like what we're talking about, that people can escape into this fantasy and they can relate to spiritual beliefs of the authors, and they can experiment with new beliefs and new ideas. Maybe something like that as well. I actually put a lot of everybody knows I'm really into personal development, and you'll find after book one tons of like little Easter eggs of the law of attraction and the law of allowing, and some Buddhist stuff and a lot of like positive living. And it's actually really, really, really improved my writing, because now that I don't have a dam there. I just let all of my thoughts and beliefs run into this manuscript, and it makes it a lot deeper for those who want to go have a deeper story. You could read the story and not look at some sentences at a deep level, but if you stopped on some scenes, you're like, oh wow, I mean, this is important. Something I could put into my own life. And the new series I'm about to write, the very ending of this book one is just, to me, it's just like excellent, if I do say so myself. But as an author,
Awesome.
I definitely put my beliefs and the spiritual side of me into my writing. I can't help it. I don't think any author can help not putting beliefs or, you know, their views into a story. Maybe some masters can, you know, they can, but I think it comes out, it taints the manuscript.
Yeah. I mean, the people that don't do that, there will have to be a lot of a detachment from you and the
Mm.
artwork.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That's good wording. It's good wording. Do you
yeah.
believe
And
that?
also,
Go ahead.
recently, I watched the picture movie Coco. It's about like, did you guys watch that movie?
Isn't
Yeah.
that like a Latin-based
Yeah.
cartoon?
Day of the
Yeah,
Dead.
it's based on Mexican culture, and it's about death. Basically, it's about the philosophy of death. And in Coco, so basically in Mexican culture, like families, they put pictures of their loved ones that passed away. They make kind of like this. It's kind of like a shrine, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. I haven't seen one in real life, but in the movie, basically they put up a shrine of their loved ones that have passed away. And what happens? Oh, I'm kind of giving a spoiler here,
I'm
but
fine.
yeah,
Spoiler
but
alert.
basically, so what happens is that the main character was just like this, like 13-year-old boy. He, by accident, he goes into the land of the dead in Mexican culture, and he meets his family that had passed away, and and one of them is like afraid that he's going to disappear. Like instead of being a spirit, he'll just be non-existent because like he won't be remembered anymore. Like if you are forgotten, then your spirit goes into non-existence, basically. And that's what the movie's about. Is basically the message of the movie was nobody wants to be forgotten, and we want to live in the memory of others. And if you watch the film, it's kind of like the creators are creating this like dream, diving into somebody's dream, and showing, giving you this picture of like the land of the dead, the afterlife. And that's why I say that fantasy is like the spiritual side of storytelling.
Yeah, definitely. It explores these things that people have sort of created, like the spiritual aspects too. You've got all these religious systems. I don't know. I think pretty much every single fantasy novel that I've read has some sort of religious system that plays a prominent role in some way or another. And so it really highlights the importance of religion to just humans, instead of saying, oh, this is a great book that has a religious system. It's just such an ingrained part of it.
It's important to us as human beings to believe in something.
Yeah, definitely. That belief is what defines us as humans. We need something to believe in, whether it's ourselves, whether it's a higher power, whether it's a little man floating around in space, whatever it is. We have to have that belief, and fantasy really does explore that really well. Those belief systems, even if it's in magic, you believe that when you do the special symbols, like in the magicians, the power will appear, or Harry Potter, when you move your wand a certain way, the thing happens. And it's that belief that defines us as humans, and it's really highlighted through fantasy.
Yes, definitely. And so yeah, and I've also, if you ever played, I'm an RPG fan. You ever played Final Fantasy?
Of course.
Of course. What was that?
Yes.
Yeah, like Final Fantasy. I mean, if you played any Final Fantasy game, from the first one to the latest one, which is number 15.
I have not
yes. So the message in all of them really is, who are we and what are we here for? If I mean, that's just kind of my take on it by doing all the Final Fantasy games. Because although they're all set in different worlds and it's a different story, the creators of the Final Fantasy always have this kind of like this this self-discovering journey of what am I here to do? What are we here for? And yeah, I mean, that's what I have to say on Final Fantasy. It's our friend Stevie still here.
He had to drop out for technical reasons, I think. So in your books, how does that play out? Like, what's the sort of character progression, the spirituality aspect of your books?
So in Rift of Chaos, basically, so in my book, I added the whole idea of Adam and Eve. So basically, in the beginning, there was the Garden of Eden, and in the Garden of Eden, that was the dragon's holy land. Okay, because there were the deities are basically, these dragons are the ultimate power. Dragons are the gods, dragon gods. Okay. And so in the beginning, there was the Garden of Eden, that was the dragon's holy land, and with their breath of fire, they created Adam and Eve. They were created by four flames.
Okay.
And then there's whole, and I kind of use the elements, like the colors red, blue, green, and yellow, like water, fire, earth, and wind. Okay. If you look at the cover, of Sin of Mages, you kind of, when you see Aquilas, it has like the orbs floating around him. And that's basically what it's representing, if you take a look at it. So basically, the magic really comes from the dragon gods, and there's three types. There's two types of energy sources. There's Maju. If you played an RPG game, it's kind of like the MP, the magic points.
Yeah.
So Maju is basically like the natural energy, the energy in nature, the energy within you. And that's how they cast spells, right? And then The other would be cosmic energy. The
Okay.
cosmic energy is basically this more I don't want to call it space magic. I'm gonna say it's like kind of like magic of the stars, where they can like open portals and control gravity in a way,
Okay.
because they're tapping into the cosmic energy. Um, and basically, to use cosmic energy, you have to basically you have to open the gates in your spine, kind of like the chakras.
Yeah.
And yeah, and that's all in by the that's all in the third book. Like by the third book, then the readers just kind of start learning more about these things. So yeah, that would be these things. And then there's other stuff like there's like different continents, and within those continents there's like these major religions or whatnot. Yeah, so to make it short, that's how I personally add spirituality to my book. Really, is in a lot of it's from religion. I was raised Christian, but as I grew up in my teen years, I got into Buddhism. There's a lot of Buddhism in there. A lot of the whole chakra system.
Yeah.
Yeah, the chakra system, and some Eastern philosophies too. And yeah, to make it short, I think. Well, for now, yeah, that's how I do it.
It's interesting to note how a lot of religions have a lot of similarities. The chakras, for example, that's a very Buddhist thing, but they also have something similar in the Hindu religion, and I'm sure a lot of other religions have certain things in common. Or there's the Holy Trinity. That's a really popular concept, and so it's interesting to see how humans they sort of reach these same conclusions about religion or belief or deities or whatever, even though they're separated by continents or oceans, they still come to really similar conclusions about what they how they perceive God or how they perceive the magic or the energy of the world.
Yeah. Yes, that is true. It's kind of, if, for example, like the pyramids in Egypt. The pyramids in Egypt are like thousands of miles away from South America, but somehow the Mayans build
Yeah.
a pyramid themselves. How did that happen?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's some pretty cool stuff. There's this branch of scientists, I can't remember, researchers that study sort of the mythologies of the world, comparative mythology, I believe. And they basically say, okay, how did these things originate? Is there one mythology that was the original and spawned all these other ones, or was it just everybody coming up with the same thing at the same time? And most, like, the majority believe that it's everybody coming up with the same thing at the same time. But it's the same thing with scientific discoveries. Like in the Nobel Prize, they will award multiple scientists the prize because they came up with the theory or the discovery at the same time. I think it's called multiple discovery,
Yeah.
where the one scientist in Sweden and then another one in Japan come up with the same thing independent of each other. So then they both receive the Nobel Prize for that, and it's pretty cool how the human creativity or scientific discovery works.
Yeah, definitely. And you see this a lot in history, and like the Great Flood in the Bible.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course.
so the Great Flood, when Noah built the ark and all that. There's also a similar story if you study the epic tale of Gilgamesh,
Yep.
like in Sumeria. There's also a similar tale to that, where like there was a flood, and the dude got on this giant boat, and yeah, so I think it's kind of like that saying, "Great minds think alike."
Yeah.
Or it could also be like like kind of like how teachings are passed down throughout millennials and centuries.
Yeah.
So are stories.
Yeah. The oral histories. That's pretty cool. All right. Well, why don't you tell us a little bit about your books before we get into reading them?
What you want to know?
just give us like the gist, you know, the main character, the basic story, just so that we can get interested in what we're going to read.
Yeah, sure. So basically, the story revolves around Achilles. So Achilles was born in these islands at the center, literally at the center of the world of Odilius, and they're called the islands of El Nido, which is translates to the nest, in Spanish, the nest. And basically, historically, in that world, that's where the Garden of Eden once was, and then basically once the dragons, once humans brought sin to the world, the dragons left, and then the land was inhabited by human beings. So that's kind of the little history, and then but the story mainly focuses around Achilles, who was a glorified mage.
Okay.
So in the world, mages can control elements like air, wind, fire, um, earth, lightning, things of that nature,
Okay.
as well as dark and light, which is basically white magic, dark magic.
Okay.
So basically, Achilles was able to master all four elements, as to some mages can only master one or two.
Oh, nice.
You understand?
Are we about to do the reading? And I'm sorry, I had a power outage, so I was just like running around the house trying to fix everything. So are we about to get into the reading? And you were talking about your book? Oh, okay, cool. Is there any like Mexican like aspects in the story?
No, there are not.
None? Okay.
I mean, like I was telling Andy here, it's that in the book, there's at the center of the world of Odilius, there are these islands. They're called El Nido, which translates to the nest, because that's where the dragon's holy land once was. So basically, the story was around Achilles. He was a glorified mage. Everybody kind of like saw him as the reincarnation of this historical figure in the world. And so basically, in the beginning, he wanted to rid the world of magic. He wanted to he had this plan to rid the world of magic. And once he met the Fairy King, he kind of like changed his mind, and his view changed, and basically just became a different person. And during that time, he had 4 apprentices, right? 4 apprentices whom, like every master, he wants to pass down his teachings, and his apprentices were following his footsteps. But by the time that he kind of like became this good guy, this good man, in the mindset of what he had planned before, the world of magic, like the world is better off without magic. And so basically his 4 apprentices betrayed him, and basically they like burned down his wife, killed his son, and then only he survived.
Holy
of course.
Crap.
And then yeah, so and then basically they disappeared, and then they started creating chaos around the world. And now he felt guilty because it's kind of like his creation. Like, they're destroying things because of me. Like, they're following my old ways.
Mm-hmm.
So now he's out to basically, stop them. And, before they do some crazy shit.
Awesome. Let's go ahead and get to the reading then.
Definitely.
Great.
So the way we do this, AJ, is we have the author tell us what part they want to play. I'm guessing you might want to be the narrator or something like that.
Like what part I want to play, as in
you're the director. You just tell Andy and I who we should be and whose parts we should, Andy, I can't talk today.
All right, tell you what. I will read.
Okay.
I'll read Achilles. AJ, why don't you read the narrator, because there's a lot of really complicated names that we don't want to screw up.
True.
read the villains. I'll read Ember and the other 4 apprentices.
Okay. All right, then Stevie, you're the narrator.
Okay, I'll be the narrator. Okay. Are we ready, guys?
Yep.
All right. Thunder thudded and heavy rain blurred his view. As he rode his silver dragon through the strong wind, he squinted and saw the tower rain from a small island. His old apprentices awaited him in that tower. It had taken Achilles years to find their whereabouts.
You will no longer hide from me, Ember.
Achilles thought.
You will face me, and we will end this.
As his dragon, Claros, got closer. Did I say that right?
Claros, yes.
Claros got closer. The great spike tower dwarfed its flight. The skyscraper seemed to touch the dark clouds of the storm. The dragon flapped its wings as loud as thunder. It roared and ascended towards the high floors of the tower. From far away, Achilles saw her preparing a fire spell. The light of her flames shone like a beacon, brightening her white mask and horns that she wore to hide her past. He had stumbled upon her multiple times through his travels in Odilius, hunting her down and tracking her Maju.
Yes.
Sorry,
Maju.
French. He had witnessed all the destruction she had caused throughout the world. Now she could no longer hide.
I found your hideout, Ember, in the northern oceans of El Nido. If you try to run away again, I will make sure to brand you with the mark of the divine and make sure never to lose you again.
Achilles stood up on the saddle of his silver dragon. The wind ruffled his cloak. His long black hair with white strands was freed by the wind. His eyes focused on her like a hawk to its prey, and he balanced himself on the back of his dragon as it banked towards the tower. Then he saw her make the first move. A red beam raced from her fingers at his dragon.
Illumnos Tega,
Achilles chanted, and spread his arms wide, releasing his Maju. A crystal shield appeared in front of Claros as it flew. When the red beam collided with the crystal shield, Claros was protected and the beam ceased. The dragon then opened its maw and coughed out a sphere of white energy. Ember flew out of the way, and the sphere detonated in the tower, creating a cloud of white smoke. Ember flew up high, her black cloak spread like bat wings.
Ember!
Achilles yelled.
Stop running away from me. I have chased you all over the world, and now you have no place to hide.
She did not respond, but when Achilles gazed at her silhouette in the dark sky, it seemed to swell and changed form.
I know all your spells. You cannot fool me, Ember.
Ember descended in the form of a great gargoyle. It was the same size as Claros, 50 feet long and slim. The gargoyle screeched, and it irritated Achilles' ears. It swooped, and when it swiped its claws, they slid over the dragon's glossy scales. The dragon quickly bit into the gargoyle's right shoulder, and the creature screeched so loud that Claros had to let go. The gargoyle flew away from the tower and ascended higher towards the thunder clouds.
Claros, follow her,
Achilles commanded, and the dragon chased after Ember in her gargoyle form. The gargoyle rapidly cast fireballs and hurled them at the dragon, but Claros was agile and quickly reached the beast. Claros bit into the leathery wing of the gargoyle and yanked it off. It screeched again so loud that it pained the ears to get near it, like sharp nails scratching glass. The gargoyle shapeshifted back into Ember. The white-masked woman was clad in black. The 5 horns on her mask warped up, like a crown made for a fiend. Ember looked through her mask with one eye from a cracked opening. The strong wind billowed her cloak and revealed her slim, curved body covered in scaly leather. Ember thrust her palm with a grunt, and Achilles' dragon was pushed back by an unknown force. It was like being thrown by a catapult. Claros lost control of its flight and spun in the air with Achilles on its back. Struggling to regain control, the dragon roared and burst open and opened its wings with a loud thud like thunder. Achilles balanced himself on the dragon as he gripped the saddle. Achilles gazed at Ember for a moment through the blurry view of the heavy rain. Claros waited its master's command. Then Ember spoke.
You have stalked me throughout Odilius, my old master. I have had enough of you chasing me, trying to prevent me from accomplishing my goal.
You know why I am here, Ember,
Achilles said.
Your chaos ends now. Give me the Crimson Cosmo Jewel that you took from I don't know what you plan to do with it, but I won't let you use it.
My old master,
Ember said, spreading her cloak, thunder sang above.
you have gone insane. Look at you, an old man. Your face is getting wrinkled, your hair is getting whiter, and your magic is getting weaker.
I have enough vigor to end your life, Ember.
Achilles bellowed.
You and the other 3 that betrayed me.
Tell me, Achilles, what will you accomplish by killing me?
Ember chuckled, and her cloak ruffled as she slowly drifted in the sky with a gust of wind and rain.
Once I finish you, there will be one less threat in Odelius.
Achilles replied and spurred his dragon. Clara shot towards Ember, and the masked woman dived down and veered away from her tower. She flew as a dark cloud leaving a trail of black smoke. Clara spun around and chased her. The dragon dived like an eagle falling on its prey. The wind wrinkled Achilles' face, and he held on to his saddle. Within seconds, Claros was behind Ember. Achilles saw a beam of red energy coming at him. He dipped and dodged the attack.
She always uses the same spells,
he thought.
I will capture you and imprison you. If the dragon gods don't punish you for all you have done, then I will.
Achilles saw that Ember flew just above the ocean, and her speed split the waters as she jetted away from him. Claros descended, and once the dragon was close enough to the sea, Achilles released his Meiju and manipulated the water.
Aguas bestia!
He yelled, swirling his right hand like a whirlpool. A pillar of water rose and took the form of a serpent and coiled towards Ember. Ember spun her body and saw the water serpent behind and soared, but the serpent caught her before she could go any farther.
I still remember you are weak against water,
Achilles said as Claros brought him closer to his old apprentice. Before she could escape, he quickly prepared another spell.
Luvrum Fantovsus!
He shouted. Achilles felt a presence behind him like spiders crawling on his back and stopped his spell. He spun around and saw a white-masked foe casting a pulse of wind. Achilles was pushed off his dragon and he fell to the ocean. He caught a glimpse of Claros being struck by razor winds, and the dragon howled and fell as well. Achilles' body plunged into the dark ocean. He held his breath in the water and took time to think about his next move as he slowly drifted.
That was Hydo. I know it was him.
Did it stop there?
Huh? Is Andy? He's frozen. I think I could continue this. Out of the 4 of them, he is the only one who knows aeromancy. It took an incredible pulse to knock me off Claros. Ember brainwashed him, and I am sure Nonit and Hertha will appear soon. They have all grown strong. I am sure if I can take on all 4 of them at once. I'm not sure if I can take all 4 of them at once, but I have to try. Achilles spun in the water for another spell. Using hydromancy, he infused his Meiju with the water and chanted in his mind, Aquara Wiraluas. His Meiju drew in water and pushed Achilles to the surface. Achilles burst from the water like a geyser. A pillar of water whirled around his lower body, and the master magus spread his arms, unleashing his Meiju. One of his apprentices approached him. This one was different. The white mask had horns on the side of his head, pointing backwards. He floated in the air and stared at Achilles with one eye through a cracked opening.
It's been so many years, old master. I have missed you greatly,
the apprentice said. Your sarcasm won't make me laugh today, Hyro, Achilles answered in his aquatic pillar. I see you have joined Ember in her path of destruction.
No, my old master,
Hyro said in a polite tone.
With Ember's plan, we can change the world for the better. Hyro, shut up.
Ember chimed in and floated to his right. They both stared at their old master. Achilles gazed at them, and he could no longer feel the same presence that he once felt. He felt cold and clouded presence, like the dark clouds of the storm. Something was clouding their soul, and Achilles could feel it using his divine magic. He once felt innocence and love from their Meiju, but now they emanated lust and hatred. Change the world, Achilles repeated. Do tell me how you will change the world by destroying everything in your path.
Yeah. You wouldn't understand, Achilles. You are better off dead.
Ember answered and dashed through the air with a fist bathing in fire. Achilles thrust his palm upward and another pillar of water burst from the sea. The water forced Ember towards the dark sky. Achilles heard the dragon roar as it flew to help him. Achilles released his Meiju and his aquatic pillar dropped. He fell as if to dive into the sea again, but Kleros caught him and ascended. Soaked on the saddle of the dragon, he looked back and saw Hyro and Ember racing through the sky. Both masked foes flew, leaving a trail of black smoke. Their endurance was great. There was once a time when both of his apprentices would be drained of their Meiju after a few spells, but now their magic seemed to be at his level. They are much stronger than I thought. Ember should not have recovered from that attack so quickly. Kleros whirled its body with Achilles on its back to face Hyro and Ember. The dragon coughed 2 spheres of white energy. Ember and Hyro dodged them with ease and swirled in the air. Achilles clapped his hands together, forming a compound spell. Using the elements of water and wind, his Meiju produced lightning. Tronda sus! He shouted the ancient words and cast his spell. A beam of lightning ran from his fingers towards Ember. As the masked woman flew over the water, she banked left, and the lightning seemed to have touched her arm, affecting her flight. Her body skid over the water like a rock hurled into a river. Her speed kept her body above water, and she had to pause in the air while Hyro streamed towards Achilles. Trondras! Chains! Achilles shouted another spell and captured Hyro with electric strings. The strings paralyzed Hyro and sealed his Meiju. Achilles dragged him with his electric strings like a dead body tied to a wagon. Hyro could not move, and he could only scream from the pain. Don't think I ever forgot your weakness, Achilles reminded. 1 down and 3 more to go. The rain strengthened the lightning spell, and Hyro yowled. You won't win, Achilles. Oh, I'm sorry.
You won't win, Achilles.
Sorry about that. Hyro struggled to say as he groaned from the pain.
We are not the same students you once taught.
A column of water burst from below. Achilles left focus of his spell, and Hyro was set free. Achilles and his dragon were lifted by the column of water, but the dragon managed to roll out of the current. He saw the column freeze into an enormous block of ice. It sunk halfway and then floated above water. He knew who had cast that spell, the only one of his apprentices that specialized in hydromancy. From the sea he emerged, ascending with an aquatic ring surrounding him. He wore a white mask as well, except this one had a broken horn on its forehead.
Good to see you again, old master,
said his apprentice. The ring of water kept Achilles away from him. Your pacing is awesome. Like, just the writing, your writing just kept me invested in it, and like we just kept going and going and going. And I felt like we were just spiraling down. I loved it, is what I'm trying to say.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, without Andy here, so I guess Andy had problems. For some reason, I had a power outage, and then he had a problem. Without him in this podcast, I think it'll end in a couple of minutes. So real quick, I just wanted to say, I bet readers who are like magic freaks love your books. It seems like you've created a really cool world with complicated magic. I'd never even heard of a compound spell. I thought that was a really cool thing, and that it was a really cool read, man. I really appreciate you coming on the air.
Hey, no problem, man. Anytime.
Yeah. And was I saying, was it Hyro or Gyro?
It's Hyro. Yeah.
Okay. Andy was right, huh? All right, man. Well, AJ, why don't you give us a